Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Scores studio. Welcome to the show, and oh my goodness, do I have a doozy for you today. Do people still say that? Probably not. Regardless, today's episode is about a deck that is so crazy it should be illegal because, well, let's jump into it. So, first up, the commander for this crazy deck is Scion of the Ur-Dragon, but it's not the kind of a deck that you might expect, which most of the time, the vast majority of the time, nearly all the time with Scion of the Ur-Dragon, it is Dragon Tribal, but we are not doing that. We are doing something completely different and off the wall. We have a 4/4 Dragon Avatar with flying that costs Wooburg. What we care about, though, is that activate ability. Pay 2, go search your library for a Dragon permanent card, put it in your graveyard. If you do, it becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, then shuffle your library. Now, the reason I said Dragon permanent card, I guess not said, but did this, is that essentially that is a piece of text that, yes, generally implies that you were going and getting a usual dragon, like, wings, claws, fire breathing, that kind of stuff. We're not doing that. We are not doing that at all. We are getting something completely different that is still technically a dragon. Now, most players out there might not want to build around this in a non-dragon friendly fashion, but you know what? When I see a commander like this, I like to say, how can I turn this on its head, do something completely different and unexpected with this crazy commander? Because, yeah, becoming a copy of any dragon in our deck can be really, really impactful, especially when you have, well, a golden pig of the deck, which is Orvar the All-Form. That's right. This is actually a hidden Orvar deck in a way, and we'll talk about why. A 3/3 shapeshifter that costs 4 mana with Changeling. So again, because it has Changeling, no matter where it is all creature types, which of course includes, well, human, citizen, goblin, and yes, dragon. So Scion of the Ur-Dragon can go say, you know what, Orvar, I am actually Scion of the Urvar, whatever it is, and you're going to go get that, put in your graveyard, and Scion becomes this. Now, why do we care about this? Because it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. So this is a card that is absolutely crazy broken. And yeah, it's typically limited to mono blue. And even in that, it's an incredibly scary commander. If you've ever seen Alex deck around this, oh my goodness, it's a crazy good deck. That being said, what's better than mono color? 5 color. We've got access to every single one of the colors now. And because of that, we can do some off-the-wall crazy things that, again, our opponents are not expecting, because when we activate it, they're going to be like, okay, they're searching for a dragon, right? And we're like, no, not at all. We are not searching for a dragon. Technically, it is technically a dragon, and we're getting Orvar. In the second that happens, you're going to see the faces on your opponents be like, oh god, no, not this, anything but this, because this allows us to do crazy things again. Anytime we target anything of our things, we can make a copy of it. Because that is a thing, there are some crazy off-the-wall things that we can do with this that really should be illegal. Now, if you are interested in this deck, usually I talk about this with the commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And yeah, make sure you pick it up if you're interested in it. It's just $30.22 according to Moxfield. Doesn't include the cost of shipping or basics. Keep in mind, though, the vast majority of that cost is between Orvar, which is $3.38, and Scion of the Ur-Dragon, which is like $8 or so. So yeah, the rest of the deck, very budget-friendly, 50 cents or less per card. If you already have these 2 cards, great. It's only like a $20 deck for you in total. Regardless, very budget-friendly too. With all that said, let's jump into the rest of the tactics. Because with Orvar in a 5-color deck, we've got access to even more crazy shenanigans with tack number 2, like bye, Anoint. This terrible, awful card. Instant for a single white mana. Prevent a 3 damage any creature. Terrible, awful. This is awful. Why would we play this? Oh, because it has buyback 3, which means that we can pay an extra 3 when we cast it. If we do, it comes back to our hand. So here's the thing with Orvar. If we can have a repeatable casting spell that targets one of our permanents, especially a creature, we can keep copying that again and again and again and again. And yeah, sure, I guess prevent 3 damage too. We really don't care about that. What we care about, again, is just ensuring that this is going to be a fun time for us just copying a creature. And I am saying creature like this because, we've got some other craziness. Again, yeah, this deck is really off the wall. Next up, though, again, because we got the 5-color again, we get access to so many different kinds of cards we don't have access to with Orvar, like Change of Heart. Again, the exact same cost, the exact same buyback cost. Target creature can't attack this turn. Instant speed. We don't really care what this does. I will tell you that right now. We just care that this targets something, especially a creature. And yeah, being able to say, cool, you can't attack, creature. Oh, no, I can't attack. I'm your creature. Okay, cool. Sure, let's just copy you. Again, for 4 mana, but we'll talk about ways to make this into just 1 mana. Again, again, and again. Next up, clock spinning. Orvar decks do have access to this one, and this is perhaps the best one because, hey, you choose a counter on target permanent or suspend card, remove that counter from that permanent or from another one of those counters on it. Double checked with my rules experts on this one, and yeah, you don't need to actually target something that has a counter on it because it says choose a counter on target permanent. You're targeting the permanent, and then you choose a counter on it, so you just pick any of your permanents, including lands, and you say, hey, oh, you don't have a counter? That's okay. All right, I'll just bring this back to my hand and do it again and again and again and again. You can copy whatever you want out of all your permanents for, again, just 4 mana or even less once we're set up properly. Elvish Fury. 1 green mana, instant speed, buyback 4, +2/+2 to a creature on turn. This can actually be potentially one of our win cons in this deck because, hey, here's the thing. If you can cast this infinitely, let's say, then that's infinite power for what we're targeting. Next up, Scarring Touch. 1 damage to our creature or player. This one you got to be a little more careful with because, well, you are actually damaging something. So keep that in mind. That being said, this can still loop very well in many situations. Instant for a single red, buyback 4. Seething Anger. Target is supposed to be 0 until end of turn. Again, another way to give infinite power potentially at a certain point. Sorcery for a single red, buyback 3. Imp's Taunt. Target creature attacks this turn if able. Be careful with this one, I guess I should say, unless you are kind of comboing off with this, because, yeah, you don't want to really force something to attack that you don't want to attack, but if you go, like, you know, second main phase, that still works for you. Regardless, again, 1 in a black, buyback 3. We can still reduce that down to just nothing, essentially, or a single man, I should say. Again, doesn't really matter what these things do. What matters for them, I should say, is that they are targeting a creature, and we can repeat them again and again and again. And speaking of creatures, well, we can actually set ourselves up in fantastic fashion with some tag number 3, reduce and reuse, because here's the thing. With that additional cost for a buyback, that can be reduced as well. Again, meaning that, hey, if we get that buyback cost down to nothing, the vast majority of those cards I just talked about are going to cost a single mana, or Imp's Taunt 2, or down to even 1 again if we reduce it even further, down to basically nothing. We cast those spells for just 1 mana and basically copy any of our creatures, or again, with clock spinning, any of our permanents. This one, Battle Mailed Thaumaturge. Each instant source spell you cast costs 1 to cast for each creature it targets. Yeah, just essentially cast it. You can even target this, and when you do against Hexproof on turn, and again, when you are casting this with Orvar in play, you're copying it. You're getting an extra one. You're getting more, and you get more, and you get more, and you reduce that down to the point where, again, your spells cost nearly nothing. Speaking of which, Goblin Necromancer, a great one. Instant source spells cost 1 less to cast. Again, this counts for any of them, even ones that aren't necessarily targeting something. So yeah, get extra copies out of this and just see things go. Humble Awakening. This will help our opponents out, but it's going to help us out the most, I promise. Artifact for 2. Every spell costs 1 less. This can help us a ton in getting things set up. Moving on, Killian Ink Duelist. One that we don't want to copy because it is legendary. That being said, Lifelink Menace. Spells you cast that target a creature costs 2 less to cast. So again, this is a huge burst for us. Just getting this in play for 2 mana saves all of our buyback spells an extra 2. Actually, any spell that we cast that targets a creature, essentially. So yeah, that is absolutely huge for us. Mocking Sprite. Again, like Goblin Necromancer. This one is flying, though. Instant source spells cost 1 less to cast. Again, non-legendary, so we keep copying this again, which is lovely. Naiad of Hidden Coast, a very interesting one that we can really take advantage of because most of the spells that we care about are instant speed. And again, our commander's activation can be instant speed as well. As long as it's not your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So getting extra copies of this means that, hey, on that opponent's unsuspecting turn, crazy things are going to happen. Crazy game-ending things are going to happen. Font of Magic, insert spells you cost once cast for each time you've cast your command zone. Because command zone in this game, even just one time can be great. Multiple times, of course. Oh no, you dealt with my commander. Okay, extra cost reduction for me. Hanada Dawn Crowd helps out in multiple ways. This is a crazy broken commander itself. Spells you cast cost 1 less cast for each target. On top of that, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. So let's get rid of slow down our opponents and also speed us up too. Speed of goes up. Mizzix of the Is Magnus. Hard name to say. Whenever you cast an instant short spell with mana value greater than the number of experience counters you have, get an extra experience counter. In-source spells cost 1 counts for each of those experience counters. So basically, cast bigger and bigger spells, save more and more mana. Yeah, this by itself, essentially throughout the game, can save us the amount of mana that we need to go crazy on that turn. Again, buyback 3 is usually what we aim for. Arcane Melee neither gets us there too. This does help out our opponents as well, but again, it's going to help us out the most. In-source spells cost 2 less to cast. We also have Storm Skrillex, a cool name. Flying instant source spells cost 1 to cast. On top of that, it can be a win condition for us as well, or at least against one opponent. Whenever you cast the instant sorcery spell, it gets +2, +2, +0 until end of turn. So again, a massive flyer, near infinite damage. Rules lawyers out there, okay? Like, choose a number, 3 trillion, whatever it is. Hit your opponent for 3 trillion in the face because they didn't have a flyer. Have fun. Next up, let's move on to tactic number 4, Plant and Dig, because we need to ramp and also dig down into our deck to get to what we need. First up, Wayfarer's Bauble, pay 2 tap, sacrifice, get a basic land, into play, tapped. Next up, we've got Rampant Growth, the OG ramp spell. Go get a basic land to play, tap for 2, or again, with our cost reducers, just a single mana. Speed of which, Edge of Autumn, basically exact same thing if we've got 4 or fewer lands. Later in the game, though, we can also cycle this away by sacrificing a land to replace it. Speaking of replacing it, Explore. Again, with a reduction spell, just a single mana to draw a card and play additional land this turn. We also have Growth Spiral, which is kind of similar, but at instant speed, draw a card, get a land from your hand into play for 2 mana. Farseek, though, finally budget-friendly again. Go get a Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain, put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle for 2 mana. Cultivate, go get 2 basics. 1 goes into play, tapped, 1 goes into our hand to set ourselves up for our next land drop. Harrow, sacrifice 1 land, get 2 to play untapped. This can actually be a ritual effect for us because, again, with that cost reduction, if this costs just 1, congratulations, you get extra mana. Then we've got Scale the Heights. This one can actually be quite fun for us. Get a counter on 1 creature, gain 2 life, let your land this turn, draw a card. Again, with Orvar, we're like, oh, okay, that's in play, awesome. Let's just actually copy this creature. Let's actually get an extra land to play. Let's draw a card, get a lot of value out of this. Search for Tomorrow. Spend 2 for a single green mana, get a basic land into play untapped. Eureka Moment, basically a bigger Growth Spiral, draw 2, get an extra land into play at instant speed. Escape from the Wilds, essentially we're going to impulse draw 5, get an extra land into play as well. Urban Evolution, speaking of card advantage, draw 3, extra land as well. And oh my goodness, Coveted Jewel. This is the first card I'm going to talk about when it comes to kind of comboing with this crazy off-the-wall strategy. Essentially, again, when you've got enough cost reducers in play that you can buy back any of those spells for essentially 1 mana or 2 mana in total and casting it and getting it back, this is infinite mana, an infinite card draw. Not infinite technically because you are going to run out of cards at a certain point with Coveted Jewel though. ETB, draw 3, tap for 3 mana of any 1 color. On top of that, hey, if your opponents actually attack you, they can steal it. That being said, actually, that's kind of funny because if you actually get enough of these in play and your opponent doesn't have enough cards in the library, they couldn't build themselves out with that. That being said, again, the game's going to end before that because you're going to draw your entire library, get exactly what you need to win from there. But yeah, a crazy cool combo effect with this commander. Moving on, some cards that really inspired what this deck does are some really weird cards that really see no play in Commander pretty much, and got a special place in my heart. Animate Land, I love that old school art. Instant for a single green mana. Until end of turn, target land is a 3/3 creature that's still a land. This is a card that is pretty terrible in Commander. It's like, okay, cool. My land is technically a 3/3, yay! Oh no, now it's susceptible to removal, and just 3 power, that's not really all that much in a 40 life format. So usually that's not a thing that you want to do. That being said, this is exactly what we want to do with this commander again, because hey, we turned our commander into Orvar. Awesome, all right, we target one of our lands with this. Congratulations, you got another land. You paid 1 mana to ramp. On top of that, you now turn your land into a creature, which is exactly what we need to do, because here's the thing. Yes, copying our creatures with the buyback is great, because again, like, hey, God bless your answer. Get a second one, great. But you know what? When it comes to this game ending strategy, we want to make all the lands. We want to say, this land is now a creature, and all of a sudden, I can copy it with my buyback spells. So essentially, let's say I have, oh, I don't know, like a command tower in play. And yeah, we've got ways to essentially ensure that we're going to have some lands in play that can really help us out. We're going to be like, okay, command tower, you are now a 3/3. Oh, cool. I got an extra command tower. Great. Just paid for this. Also, I'm going to cast this buyback spell for just a single mana of that command tower. And I'm going to target this original command tower that is a 3/3 still. Okay, cool. Get an extra copy of that again. Another command tower. Do it again and again and again and again until we make an infinite number of command towers. So have fun with that, opponents. And it doesn't have to be a command tower. Again, if we have an island in play and we're casting, a buyback spell that's in blue. Cool. Exact same thing. But yes, basically, not infinite mana currently within this turn, but we do have ways to get there. But next turn when we untap, yeah, we'll have like a trillion lands, essentially, so we can very easily win from there. That being said, of course, Animate Land isn't our only Animate Land type effect. We also have Disturb Slumber. Top turn, target land of control comes a 4/4 dinosaur. Reach and haste. Still a land. Must be blocked this turn available. We really don't care what these do. We just care that, hey, this can target a land. Instant speed is lovely as well. And again, it's going to cost us probably just a single mana, again, with those cost reducers in play. And it really gets things going for us, turning that land into a creature. Next up, Elemental Uprising, 4/4. Land becomes a creature. Same thing, essentially. Again, these are basically going to be the exact same spells. We really don't care all that much. Vengeant Earth, target creature or land. This one we target either if we really need to. Again, with Orvar in play, you can choose whatever you need. 4/4 Elemental, must be blocked. Again, these basically do the exact same thing. That being said, there is one that does something different and actually can be a combo in itself. Verdant Touch. This one is a buyback spell that does this. Buyback for 3 for 2 mana. Target land becomes a 2/2 creature. Okay, so essentially, again, all we need to do is get cost reducers out there to get this down to -4, right? That's very easy for us to do with all these cost reducers, all these ways to copy them. And all of a sudden we get, hey, yeah, just cast this for a single green mana, turn a land into a 2/2. Oh, that was a forest you just did it on? Cool. All right, you got another one. Okay, tap it, turn it into a 2/2. Do it again and again and again and again and again. Next up, Life and Death. All lands you control became 1/1 creatures still have turn. They're still lands. On the life side, Death, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Lose life equal to its mana value. So yeah, a way to essentially say, hey, if we got something important in our graveyard, you can get it back out. And if not, yeah, you can actually just utilize life to essentially turn all your lands into creatures so that you can just utilize all of them with these fantastic copying effects. Moving on, Vivify. Target land becomes a 3/3 creature of turn. It's still a land. Draw a card. So yeah, a way to essentially just get this for free. Not free. I mean, you are kind of paying for it, but you're also getting that land back in a way. And also draw a card to replace itself. So yeah, very, very free. Kamal's Will. Turn all of our lands into creatures. Also 1/1s that are vigilant, indestructible, and haste. That can actually be quite deadly, especially if we are comboing off. On top of that, choose a creature control. You don't control all of our creatures, deal combat damage to them essentially, so or deal damage to their power. And if we control our commander, we get both. We're gonna basically have that in a way, so have fun. Then we've got Rude Awakening. Untap all lands you control, or hey, all of our lands come 2/2s, and both if we entwine it, so keep that in mind. This can be a big burst of mana for us, or just a way to, again, make this all happen. A great card. How about Kamal Fist of Krosa, though? A fantastic effect. Single green mana, make a land into a 1/1 till end of turn, or Overrun for 5 mana. Again, it can be an enabler or a finisher for us. A fantastic card for this build. But now let's move on to tactic number 6, Double Trouble, because yeah, some crazy things are going on, but we can make them even crazier. And again, yeah, Scion decks typically wouldn't include Harmonic Prodigy, but we are going to, because this is not your typical Scion deck. A 1/3 human wizard with prowess. So technically this can become infinitely large as well with our combo. That being said, what matters is if an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers, ability triggers an additional time. That essentially means that, you know what? Orvar, yes. Are you a shaman? Yes. Also a wizard? Yeah. Okay, you're all those things because guess what? Again, you are every creature type, including dragon, including all these things. So essentially, Orvar, you double up your trigger, which means that when we target something, instead of getting 1 copy, we get 2 instead. So again, with our example earlier, target command tower, get a copy command tower. Now you get 2 instead. It's twice as much. Lovely. Speaking of twice as much mana, Mana Flare. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, they add 1 mana of any type that land produced. Keep that in mind. That is fantastic. That is a great way to essentially say, you know what? What we're going to be doing is, again, getting more and more lands into play, tapping them for twice as much mana now and actually netting mana. Again, thanks for our buyback, thanks for reduction of cost, and actually generating even more mana than we already had. So yeah, once you're in that loop, infinite mana. Zertaw Ancient, a creature that can help us out. And again, when it comes to creatures, keep in mind, a lot of things that target this and copy it when we need to, but be careful with this one. 7/5 Beast for 5 mana. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, they get an extra mana. So again, we can copy this. Keep in mind that does give your opponents more mana to work with, though, so do keep that in mind. That being said, with our big explosive crazy turn, you can do some crazy things with this. Regal Behemoth, a bit safer, a lot safer. 5/5 trample, enters the battlefield to become the Monarch. So again, card advantage there, which is lovely. On top of that, if you are the Monarch, whenever you're tapping a land for mana, get an extra mana. Keep in mind, even if someone steals this from you, or not steals the Monarch from you, I should say, again, just copy this. You get an ETB on another one, and all of a sudden you're getting double that amount of mana, essentially, and also you get the Monarch back. So yeah, on your crazy explosive turn, you can do even more crazy things. Speaking of crazy, though, Swarm Intelligence. Whenever you cast it or an instant or sorcery spell, you get to copy the spell, choose for the copy. So again, cast that buyback spell, get a secondary one, essentially, again, that can target. You can make more and more and more crazy copies to do more and more crazy things. Infinite craziness activated. But now let's move on to tactic number 7, go get it. Because yes, we do have ways to dig down into our deck, but we also have some more specific ways to ensure that we get exactly what we need. Dizzy Spell, a crazy, terrible card in many situations. Target creature gets -3/-0 till end of turn. This deck, though, it is crazy good. Now, just, again, with Orvar in play, it's like, hey, pay 1 mana, copy any of our creatures. More importantly, though, transmute for 1 blue. So we can discard this for that amount of mana, go tutor out any card in our deck that costs exactly 1, which, of course, counts a couple of those, animate land cards. It counts, of course, our buyback cards as well. A lot of fantastic things we can go tutor for, essentially, to ensure that we are going to be popping off and winning. And yeah, just a crazy good tutor effect that, again, is nearly uncounterable, essentially, outside of like a Stifle. Moving on, Dimir Infiltrator. Speaking of that, again, transmute, so good. At 2 mana, we can either have a 1/3 unblockable spirit, or yeah, just a 3 mana tutor for whatever we want at 2. And again, we have a lot of options for that. Again, a buyback card, or again, animate land cards as well. Shred Memory, exact same thing at 2 mana. This one also could just get rid of cards in a graveyard from the game if we really need to, but more importantly, a tutor. Moving on, Signal the Clans, basically 2 mana, tutor for 3 creatures. We get 1 of them at random. That being said, we've got a lot of redundant effects. Essentially, again, we have those like buyback cards. Yeah, we got a redundancy there, but we also have redundancy in our cost reducers too. So yeah, be able to go get the exact creatures that you need. At least one of them will be what you need to help you reduce your cost. Moving on. Ring Sight, 3 mana, the ring tempts you. Go get a card that shares that color ledge creature control, reveal, open your hand, then shuffle. If it's our commander, basically any card out of our library is coming into our hand. Micromancer, a really good card for this deck. 3/3 ETB. Go search for an instant source card, mana value 1, reveal, open your hand, then shuffle. Again, this can help us out in many ways, getting the exact card that we need. And again, it is on ETB, so keep in mind you can use and abuse that. Yeah, if you need to. Mystical Teachings. Go get any instant or card with flash. Get in your hand again. Essentially for 4 mana or 6 mana if we are flashing it back. So this can actually get us 2 cards. Bring to Light. This is a great tutor for us. 5 mana. Go get a creature, instant, or sorcery with converted mana cost less the amount of colors spent to cast it. Can be all 5, of course, this kind of a deck. And then just cast it right away. So yeah, we can either go get the card that we need, or yeah, like tutor for a tutor that tutors a tutor. Exactly. You know what I mean. Moving on. Coveted Prize. Cost 1 less cast for each creature in your party. Keep in mind that can be helped by our commander or certain creatures in our deck. Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, Wizard. Search for a card, put in your hand, then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, which we won't, that's okay. Don't worry about that. Basically, this is a tutor that essentially we can just get out for, maybe even just 1 mana with our reduction as well. Next up, Invasion of Arcavios. ETB, go get an instant sorcery card that we own or card outside the game. Don't worry about that. And put our hand, then shuffle. Essentially a way to basically, again, on ETB, we have ways to copy this, but more importantly, go get the card that you need. And also, hey, you can also flip it if you get rid of that battle. Whenever you cast in Source Spell for your hand, copy it. Choose targets to copies. That sounds familiar? Yeah, Swarm Intelligence, a great card, of course. And Invert, Invent. Invert can actually be helpful. Switch power toughness to each of the 2 target creatures. If we just target one of our creatures with this, again, we can copy it with Orvar in play. Or, on the other side of this, search live for an instant and sorcery. Go get both of them. Again, set yourself up for that combo win with this. Next up, though, let's go on to tactic number 8, just in case, because, yeah, once opponents see what's going on, of course, we've got ways to respond. If we've got, like, multiple buyback cards, our opponents really can't do much about that if we just keep doing that, essentially. Like, oh, yeah, I'll stop that, and we're like, okay, I'll cast my other one. Instant speed, sorry. but we also have just ways to protect things when we get things going, and we can actually just do this before things start if we really need to, if we're sure that we're going to get through with it. Blacksmith skill, target permanent gains hexproof indestructible end of turn. Again, any permanent we can actually just copy again when Orvar is in play. Then we also have face shield, target permanent control gains protection with the color of your choice until end of turn. If you have 5 or less life, every single permanent, lovely. But again, what we need with these again are good targets for them, and also be careful with face shield, especially because hey, if your buyback spell is that same color, you also just can't retarget that with the same color, so keep that in mind. That being said, these can be great in a pinch for 1 mana. Just save what you need to save, and maybe even copy what you need to copy with these. But now let's move on to our very strange finisher, because I guess technically earlier I did say like it's not a dragon tribal deck, but we do have a dragon in play. It doesn't fly, and it is Balls Invoker. A Dragon Shaman, a 4/2 for 3 mana. That is a terrible ability for most decks. Absolutely terrible. I mean, this card is 4 cents for a reason. That being said, pay 8. It deals 4 damage to each opponent. Yeah, that is deadly with this deck, because again, our goal with this deck is a couple of different goals potentially. We could, get Orvar out, do that infinite combo thing. If we've got like, the Harmonic Prodigy in play, we're getting more than 1 land every single time, or Mana Flare, we're getting extra mana, or yeah, all these other things, we're getting, all this mana. Cool. We can do a lot of crazy things with that. One of the things that we can do is if we do get infinite mana on that turn, which we can get if we either, have Balls Invoker in our hand, or if we know we're going to be doing this, activate our commander twice. And because most of our things are instant speed, again, our buyback spells, animate land effects, you can actually, again, stack that in the way where you're like, okay, first up, my commander becomes the copy of not Balls Invoker. I also just messed that up right there. Orvar. And then all of a sudden do all those crazy things, make infinite lands, whatever it is, infinite mana. And then with that second activation, that second trigger that's on the stack still, again, you have to activate it ahead of time because you actually lose that activation when it becomes a copy of the other one. It's on the stack still, then it becomes Balls Invoker. And then you have all that excess mana, you just dump it into this and you take all of your opponents out unsuspectingly with a 4-cent card. Of course, other avenues to victory that you can use. This is the one that I threw in here because it's quite funny, quite hilarious, and quite crazy. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this crazy off-the-wall deck. Yeah, Scion of the Orvar, not something you typically see again with Scion. Typically you see a Dragon Tribal deck that is pretty straightforward. With this, though, it's like, no, let's just do, I guess, technically a 1-dragon deck with a changeling in there, too, and some crazy things going on with lands. Who knew? But yeah, you can do a lot of crazy things once you open up Orvar into 5-color crazy shenanigans. Quite a fun deck, in my opinion. If you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.